Hello everybody, my name is Logert and you are watching another Dwarf Fortress tutorial. Today we are going to be talking about migrant waves and growing populations of dwarves and how you can better organize these populations of dwarves. So first we're obviously going to be talking about migrant waves, how they work, what kind of dictates or controls them, and then we're going to go into, obviously, migrant waves increase your population. So I'm going to be giving you a couple tips to better organize your dwarves so they complete your tasks more efficiently and that you have the most skilled dwarves doing the labor that you want them to do, and to make sure they stay organized so that you don't get frustrated and obviously like quit the game or think the game's too difficult. So first we're going to be talking about migrant waves. So on the topic of migrant waves are obviously groups of dwarves that come to your civilization from your home civilization to help further populate your fortress. And usually your first two starting migrant waves are small. They're usually between 2 to 10 dwarves, and you'll receive them in the summer and the fall of your first year playing. But in the spring of the second year, after that winter going into the next year, spring, you'll receive a large migrant wave. Usually it's at least 10. I think it's coded to be at least 10, but they can get really, really large if you're really unlucky. So migrants, when they arrive, are dwarves not unlike your first 7 dwarves. You can't control what skills they come with, but they can arrive with some pretty awesome skills. I mean, they literally can be skilled up to the level of legendary. Like, legendary is the highest level of labor skill, and you can have migrants that show up with legendary skills. It's not always in skills that you want. I mean, it can be useless things like beekeeping, but you can get kind of lucky. I mean, I've had just an example here. I've had legendary weaponsmiths show up right when I'm about to start making iron weapons, so that all of my iron weapons are like super high grade weapons. So you can get pretty lucky on these things. I think the game puts a preference to skills that you don't really have or that you use a lot. So the game kind of balances your migrants for your current fortress, but obviously that's not always the case. So these migrants will show up, and obviously if they have new skills, they can have possibly skills that are better than your starting 7 dwarves. So you want the higher skilled person to do all that labor, but that requires you to go back and turn off the skills for your previous 7 dwarves. This is easy enough. I mean, it's just replacing one dwarf skill with another, but as soon as you start getting like 40, 50 dwarves and you start getting 10 at a time, it gets really hard to keep all that organized, keep everything straight, to make sure that you only have the best people doing all these jobs. And to, obviously, early on, you can assign, say, your carpenter to also be a mechanic. But when you get an actual mechanic, that carpenter doesn't need to be a mechanic anymore, and it just kind of wastes his time. And the guy that you want to be doing carpentry is going over and making mechanisms when you really want him to be a carpenter. So it can create a lot of this mess where all your dwarves have different skills, but you have enough dwarves that you really only need one dwarf per skill. It creates a lot of, I guess, tension in your fortress, a lot of just kind of frustration for the player because dwarves aren't doing what you want them to do. So I'm going to give you a couple tips now on how to organize these dwarves and to make sure that you have only the best people doing all the things that you need them to do when you want them to do them, so your fortress is now a giant game mess. And this is my fortress that I've been playing for a while. I'm about 6.5 hours into the game. If you just kind of look around, I'm pretty far in. Like, I've got a decent amount of stuff going on. And if you look, I have 77 dwarves right now. And if you just look, I have it pretty well organized, but it can be really overwhelming when you have a full list of just a ton of dwarves. Like right now I'm at obviously 77, and to have a lot of them not doing anything, and to keep it all straight and to make sure they're all doing something that you need to get done, it can be pretty intimidating. So if you press Z, you can look at your population. I mean, this right here is the overall of my current world right now. You can see the created wealth. All that's not important, but look to the right over by let me zoom in just a little bit so you can see a little better. Population 77, miners 4, woodworkers 2, stoneworkers. This right here is really useful because it'll tell you how many of each type of, I guess, kind of class of dwarves you have. So fishery workers, I've got 7. That includes all fishing people, fishery workers, that's their primary skill. I mean, a lot of my fishers have different skills than that. Farmers, we got 16. Engineers, we've got 2. Dwarven children, 6. Peasants are people that don't have any primary skill. All my peasants are in the military. Nobles and administrators, 3. Crafts dwarves, 11. Jewelers, 4. Metalsmiths, 8. Rangers, 4. Stoneworkers, 3. 2, 4. And if you go into that units list, you can see that that actually corresponds with the color of their name. So that can help you realize what a dwarf's best skill is, so you can make sure they're doing something that, if they came as a migrant worker, what their best skill is, so you can best utilize them. Let's for a second look at one of my dwarves, just kind of at random. Let's go with this blacksmith right here. He was a migrant, and he came with competent trapping, dabbling grower, talented metalsmith, and all these other skills, which, I mean, it's kind of random. I wouldn't have picked this, but what you want to do is, as a migrant worker shows up, I would recommend, I'm just going to have the game play. Actually, if it's going to lag, I'm not going to let the game play. I'm going to see if I can get a migrant wave to show up here really quick, because I haven't had one in a little while. So let's see if one will show up, but for now, let's just go and find a random worker. You can actually adjust if you look at both names. Like, let's look at right now Medtab Udazabel. He's a woodworker. He's a woodburner right now. You can actually change the dwarves' last title. Like, for example, these are peasants, but I renamed them to be soldiers because that makes it easier for me to find them and put them in the military. So you can do that by going to, like, this dude went insane, so I changed his profession name to insane person. Like, this person is a relief carpentry person and also a fisher. For example, this leather worker. Let's look at his skills. He's an adequate leather worker. No skills that I've really changed him to. Let's actually set him to be a fisher. So let's go back to that leather worker. And we're going to press Z, PL. And let's change him to being he's going to be a fishing person and a grower person. He's going to be helping out with, growing and fishing because that's my primary 2 sources of food. So now we've changed the skills to that. Let's not have him do anything else. I don't want him to be anything other than those 2 things. And I don't even really want him to haul anything. So that way we know exactly what he's going to be doing. We know exactly all the time. Let's go back to that leather worker. And now we're going to press VYP. And VYP, that allows you to change the profession name. And we're going to change his profession name to something very specific, like fisher/farmer. That way, I know exactly when I look at him, he's a fisher/a farmer. That is what he does. I know exactly what his skills are. I know exactly what he should be doing, what he isn't doing. And I know that I've already looked at his skills. I've already adjusted them. They're good. And that's exactly what I want out of that person. Now, you can do a lot of these. You can do this for a lot of people because, I mean, you can see kind of the ones that I've changed. They're not the normal ones in the game. Let's just change this glassmaker. He's currently making rock crafts. He's not really a rock craft dude, or he's not really a glassmaker, so we're going to change his name to something else. We're going to, by pressing VYP, we're going to change his name to rock craft maker because that is literally his job. I would recommend that you do this. It sounds really weird, but change the dwarf's name to something like that because you'll recognize that you've already adjusted that person, and when new people arrive, they won't have that very specific name that you gave them. You can make sure all of them are the same, like all your rock craft makers all have rock craft maker. That way you know exactly what they're going to be doing. You know not to assign them any other skills because they already have that skill. And if you do want to add another skill, make sure you do that thing where you do fisher/farmer because then you know they have 2 skills, and at any time, for example, you can see up here, I have farmer/fisher, whatever, it's the same thing. Sometimes you can keep the same skill, but a lot of the times your migrants will not have only 1 skill, which will cause them to do multiple things. So make sure you go in there and check all the skills of your migrants because oftentimes they'll have skills that you don't really want, that aren't really useful, that other dwarves are doing that prevents them from doing the skill that you want them to be doing. So definitely make sure you check out each and every dwarf. It definitely is worth the time that you put into it because it makes your whole fortress run so much smoother when all your dwarves have a very specific job they have to be doing. and they all do something to contribute to your fortress. So other tips that you can use is when you've adjusted a dwarf skill, you can also change their name. So you can go in and press V, Y, N. I guess you'd have to like put like that and then lead. So that way you put like a little asterisk. That way you know that you've looked at their skills, you've adjusted their skills and all that. Just make sure that you put a symbol so that you know that you've looked at that dwarf before. You know that they have their skills, they have their jobs that they need to be doing. And it's better to do this as you get more dwarves. You don't want to do this when you end up with 70 dwarves, because by the time you've gotten there, then it's too late. This is something that you want to be doing from the beginning. That way you can do it every migrant wave, that way, and have a little bit of a plan, have a little bit of a next migrant wave. I want to get, for example, 3 soldiers out of that migrant wave. So when 8 dwarves show up, then you pick out 3 of the dwarves that don't really have any skills that you need, change their nicknames to soldier, and then go into your military tab and add them to your military squad, just like I do. I literally will go in, change their nickname to soldier, which will change their nickname on the right over here. That way it's easy for me to pick their name out of the lineup and just put them right in the squad. So I know that there is no one that I want to put in the military, currently not in the military, because right now there's no people with the soldier tag. So little tips like this, they're what you need to do in order to maintain some level of organization, Dwarf Fortress. Organization is really important because this game will overwhelm you if you don't remain organized. With your fortress design, with your giving out of jobs, with maintaining your dwarves, if you don't have some level of organization, it'll just be so much and your fortress will not run very effectively. I mean, it doesn't take much, but just a little bit of planning on your part can go a long way to saving you a lot of headache, especially, like I said, when you have this many dwarves on a page. And this isn't even a lot. Like, you can have up to 200 dwarves, which that's 2 of these pages. 2 full pages on a 1080p monitor of dwarves, each with jobs and all that crazy stuff. So make sure you stay organized. Make sure you figure out a system. I mean, Dwarf Fortress, you can have your own system, and that's good. Just make sure that you develop a system. So you can use some of the tips that I gave you or come up with your own. I would definitely recommend you change the name of the profession. So thank you for watching this video, guys. I hope it helped you at least somewhat on give you some ideas how to better organize your fortress. Future tutorials, leave them down in the comment section. I will be happy to do any of them that you leave me, because I want to make sure that I put out videos that are relevant to what you guys want to see and what you need help with. So thank you for watching, guys, and please remember to comment and subscribe for more of these tutorials and like them if they helped you. So thank you for watching, and I will see you all next time. You guys are awesome. Goodbye.